Welcome to Crescendo with Ian Ira Rousso. If you like what you see, hit that subscribe button, leave a comment, share with a friend, do what you want. I don't know. All right, this is my talk with the legend, the king of the boo-haas himself, Mr. Mikey McKernan. Did you go to college?
No,
No. Okay, right arm.
I went to improv school.
That that's that's one and the same.
Yeah, exactly. I got out of high school. My parents were like, "What do you want to do?" And I said, "I want to be an actor." And so they're like, "All right, well, go do it." And so I enrolled in the Groundlings because I was like, "I want to be a funny actor." They're like, "Why don't you go do stand up?" I'm like, "Well, I'm scared."
Yeah. It's fun. Like you have booked a decent amount of work over the past couple of years.
Thank you. I
Yeah,
appreciate that. It's hard to get recognized in this town, you know, and I appreciate your recognition.
dude. I swear to God, like maybe an hour ago, I was thinking about some fun Mikey McKernan moments, and this is one of the fun ones that I remembered was being in the main room of Flappers during a baseball game. It was like right when the Geico commercial was in rotations,
Oh,
and
that's hilarious.
every time you were on every time the commercial came on, like somebody would shout, "Hey, Mikey McKernan's on TV," and everybody would just start cheering, no matter if somebody was on stage.
Yeah, that was kind of nice. It's you don't realize the real recognition until your commercial shows up at the open mic. That's almost crushing without having to go up.
Yeah, it must be a good feeling.
Oh, it's a great feeling. I'm very grateful for the feelings.
Yeah,
But it's kind of funny just because, you're waiting for your name to be pulled out of a bucket and then you look to the bar TVs and you're like, oh, there's my face. Cool.
well,
But
would
then
you look
everybody
at
to
that?
cheer if they know you, you're like, sweet. Wish my parents could have saw this.
Yeah, man, it's just such a. Oh man, this is such a weird business like that.
Yeah, it's all about forms of recognition. And when it really comes down to it, it just all depends on what the kind of recognition you feel that you deserve and that you truly want. Do you want to be recognized by all your colleagues when you're out doing open mics, grinding on the scene, or do you want to be recognized by industry who actually can get you to even more eyeballs?
Exactly. I've stopped caring what people on the comedy circuit think of what I do because like they're not the ones buying tickets or two drink minimums or anything. Like they're just like
You're right about that, but then there does come to a point where we do need each other when it comes to stand-up comedians because we're all, like that we have the shows. It's like, oh, you have a show somewhere, somewhere. So
yeah.
it's
I,
it's a true yin yang.
yeah. I also think there's just sort of this at the bare minimum we need some sort of feedback in order to make the open mic system work.
Yeah, it's true. That's why, but like that's why you try to pursue other spots that have it's more of an eclectic mic, like they're more music or
Yeah.
whatever. So you'll get actual normal people. Any normal person to an open mic comic is somebody who didn't write their name on the list to go up.
Yeah. Were you? Because I've heard of people going to like music mics as like a cheat to get a little more stage time. Were you ever doing that?
Absolutely. Well, some of my first two mics I started going to, it was called Velvet Gorilla Cabaret at the Unurban Cafe in Santa Monica. That was
Okay.
more of like poetry driven. And it's so cool because it was like a lot of young people and it was a coffee shop. I always claim that I love being a coffee shop comedian. Like that is like that's to me, I'm like, that's my bread and butter, when people they're bored, they're not drinking alcohol, or they're studying, they're trying to ignore comedy. But I also went to another one where it was called Soapbox Sessions. It's still kind of going on, but they started outside of a Coffee Bean in Encino, and that was like comic music poet on the list, and that one was so much fun.
Okay. Yeah, I know.
You haven't done? Do you know
Mou-
which ones of you?
I know about Maui Sugar Mill Tavern had a music mic. Whether or not it'll still be going on after this,
Yeah,
but I feel like they're one of those bars that they're always going to be around. I think they have enough enough rock stars know about it that they'll they'll probably do something, some sort of fundraiser to keep it going.
Yeah, well, it's going to be interesting to see, when the restrictions ease up for live music, because I mean, you're a huge music fan.
Yeah.
To me, that's going to be a really, really good measure to, I think, how we're going to, get back to normalcy of show business nightly for us, people who pursue it.
Oh yeah,
Because
like
it's like music and comics, everybody's going out every single night trying to get there.
yeah, like I was telling, who was I telling? I think I was telling this to Michael Virgilio about how I was watching a music video, one of the new Weezer songs for on Van Weezer, and in the description it had like upcoming shows, and yeah, that Dodger Stadium in July, and fingers crossed.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, technically, I'm still supposed to go to a Corn concert in May at the is it Bank of California Arena? That's down by
Okay.
Exhibition Park.
Yeah.
That was supposed to happen last May,
Okay.
and and I just know, I don't know if that Weezer show was last year too as well. They just
Supposed
all
to be, yeah.
rescheduled for 1 year later.
Yeah, I know the Fest in Gainesville, Florida, which is a very popular punk festival. They also have a comedy stage. Yeah, a couple guys I know are doing it. I know Matt Donaher's supposed to be doing it this year.
When is that going on?
It goes on every Halloween weekends.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, the 19th installment of the fest was supposed to be last year, but with everything that went on, they had to push it a year later.
Red Arm.
Yeah. And I'm also curious if people are going to be coming out in droves right away, because people forget that when things reopen, we still have gone through something pretty traumatic.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It'll be interesting. I don't know. I believe a lot of people will come out because I went to Ventura last night, and you can already see a majority of normalcy. When I mean normalcy, I mean people not wearing masks.
Yeah.
But I was outdoors. We were just hanging out at our park. So
yeah, I still got to do that mic again. It's been a while.
Real people, man.
Yeah.
I always appreciate it. There's always real people.
Yeah.
Because right now you're like, anything we can get. Like the other night at San Pedro on that walk,
Yeah.
those two girls sat and watched.
Yeah.
Or stood for a period of time.
They were fascinated by what's going on, and
yeah,
it could go one or two ways. Like sometimes real people will just be like, "Oh, this is really cool. I got to check this out."
Mm-hmm.
And then Michael Longfellow, he was on one of the Comedy Rhetoric shows, and before he went up, he overheard two skaters in Pan Pacific Park being like, "Let's go ruin the comedy show."
It's so funny because, when there's the whole reset mind frame about all of this is that, for stand-up comedians to perform, it's like, yeah, you got to go back to being a street performer.
Yeah.
Like you got to start from rock bottom.
Dude,
I don't mind it though. I like it because it's, for one, it's a little healthy being outside more,
Yeah.
So.
I never even thought of it that way, but just the fact that this is the best time we have to doing comedy in like an outdoor amphitheater or on a sidewalk really, really forces you to have good stage presence.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of comics it's going to benefit them when the clubs reopen. Like there's someone like Kurt Steinmuller, for example, like he's gotten exponentially better in all this.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, that's the thing too, is you have to adapt to the times. And especially for stand-up comics, the funniest ones who are like, hey, remember, I'm going to point out the times we're living in. Look how hilarious it is. And it's, you have to work your ass off to demand everybody's attention. And so if you're at a park where you're like, okay, this is all against me. So
yeah,
let's just jump in and fight for your life, or fight for your right, or fight for your.
Did you ever get to do any of the Like they moved the mic, but back when the drive up open mic was at Fry's Electronics in
Oh
Burbank.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh, oh my
Parking
God.
lot mic. Yeah, I remember the first time I did it. It was like kind of like it was one of the last ones I did because, and it was terrible because everybody was just hanging out talking.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I wanted to be. This was like June, and so I wanted to be excited. It's like, oh, I'm doing comedy, but then nobody was paying attention to me, so I wanted to get like, hey, like pay attention to me. But at the same time, I'm like, everybody's been like shut in, so they
Yeah.
all want to like kind of like conjugate and talk and stuff like that. So I can't really.
Dude, everything about that mic was a show. My
Yeah, and then
favorite.
I didn't do it for another 3 months after that. Just
Dude.
comedy in general.
Why would we? No, but Carol Newell, this is what I heard. They started doing the mic under the flying saucer, like the entrance. Yeah. And like it was like they did it for like 2 weeks, and then the third week apparently like the manager came outside and was just straight up, "We're not leaving until you leave." Like it was like because like
Wow.
apparently like they never ever got any sort of like permission or consent to do it. Yeah.
I imagine. Of course, open mic comedians, the worst scumbags on the earth, just to be
Yeah.
like, hey, we're doing this here right now, okay? Everybody pay attention to us. We deserve
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, we're
But
gonna find a
it's
random
tough,
bar.
man. Yeah, it's tough. I know it's so funny. It's like bar comedy. It's when you show up and they're all like, oh, this is my bar I drink at every 20 years, and then now on a Tuesday there's gonna be comedy night,
Yeah.
and they demand like, hey, you guys pay attention to comics. We work so hard.
Yeah.
I've been in like bars where guys, you know, old drunken dudes get angry at the comedians and be like, I've been here for 20 years. Who the hell are you to come in here and think you can tell me what to do at my bar? Oh man,
Yeah.
I miss it.
Yeah, dude. The first mic I ever hosted was at a bar back in Brooklyn, and there was a comic on stage, and there was a regular sitting in the booths right in front of the stage. His phone rang, and he started talking to on it like it was nothing, and the comic was pissed. But it's like one of those things. If you're doing, I don't know if this is like the official term, but ambush style comedy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Adam Hunter used to do that all back in the day. He had an ambush style comedy show. Did you ever see clips of it?
I did not. I have not.
If you should follow him on Twitter. He's a good follow.
Okay.
He's been posting a bunch of those recently. I mean, like you see early Theo Vaughn. I wish I knew more other guys who did it, because it's kind of like, it's funny in the aspect of doing it, but it's just abrasive. And as comedians, I just I've been doing it for a while. That unsuspecting comedy is up in my opinion. Because my biggest thing is I always want to be an advocate for the audience member, because as a comedian, you're performing for the audience. Your rule number one about comedy, show's about the audience. I know I'm getting in here. I always do inside baseball about stand-up comedy, and I hear other, like all the pros, like, stop talking about the process of comedy. But you just can't. This is what we talk about. I forgot about my point because I got insecure. I thought about other voices talking to me when they weren't really here.
Yeah.
What was I talking about right before I said the other comedians?
Something about
unsuspecting comedy.
It's unsuspecting, yeah.
It's as we have to perform for the audience member. The show is about these audience members here, But when we start off in comedy, you don't get, audience members who are, oh yeah, I want to watch comedy. This is what this was my intention.
That's a privilege you have to earn.
Exactly.
Like, what was it's funny. I actually was. Oh yeah, I was. I think it was Michael Virgilio who told me that Jay Leno, way back, like in the 70s, something he would do. He would walk into a random bar, go up to the bartender. Here's $100. Can I do stand-up comedy? And if the crowd isn't feeling it, like, you could just keep the money. But if they win over, if they like me, I don't think I ever phrased that. See, I'm still just waking up.
Yeah, yeah, no, I've heard that story. It's basically like you know, if they liked it, you know, I can get my $100 back or something. I forget, but I know that story,
Yeah.
and it's man, it's evolved so much. You know what I mean? That's why comedy, like the environment, has to be almost perfect, and it sucks because you know, the fucking art form just demands, you know,
Yeah, yeah,
everybody just undivided attention.
yeah, and it's such like a disrespected art form in a lot of ways.
Well, it's the
But
bottom
then,
of the totem.
yeah, but also a lot of has to do with the fact that there are just so many comics who make it look bad.
Well, open mic comedy, absolutely, you know,
Yeah,
but the pros, like, you know, when you know, the pros, they've been through it, they've jumped through the hoops, they've talked about it for hours, you know, and so, but when you have to keep doing open mics, especially right now, just to get back on your horse, to get, you know, your just to get your juices flowing or to stay active, so when the normal world comes back, you'll be able to be ready to freaking be like, yeah, I'm ready to be professional and getting paid and getting
yeah,
booked all the time. But it's going to change because, you know, the level I was at before it stopped was, you know, I was hitting up as many bars, wineries, just legit, you know, alternative comedy shows. What I mean, that means like, you know, not comedy clubs, anywhere I can get booked at,
okay,
to like, you know, make what, hopefully $300, $400 a month.
yeah. Like that's but then that's and even that's like an enviable number to most comics.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's out there. I mean, it was. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I I,
it's
I
it's
I think there's going to be a demand for it, and even right now, like I have all this equipment. I sometimes fantasize. Do I want to attempt to produce like a string of comedy shows, like one-offs in like small towns? But also at the same time, I'm not ready to take that risk just yet with COVID.
yeah. I understand. What about in your town though? When like establishments open up and they're looking
Oh yeah,
for, you
here I
know,
absolutely will.
yeah, I think it's a good idea.
Yeah,
I did it for so long, and now I'm even thinking about like, man, do I want to do that again? That might be a good idea. But at the same time, I'm like, hell no.
yeah,
I've been through that. You know, a weekly show. A weekly show is very tiresome, and you don't
yeah.
want to burn out.
Yeah, like yeah, right now, where Comedy Rhetoric is weekly in Pan Pacific, and even that's can be a bit much, but it's also very rewarding because there's no other stages in LA
Hmm.
right now. Like we're getting a lot of cool comics who genuinely are respecting what we do.
That's
Dude,
cool.
dude, fucking Jamar Neighbors was talking about Comedy Rhetoric on Joe Rogan.
I
That
know
that,
you told me.
that's rad.
How many times have you brought that up on your podcast?
That's this would only be the second actually.
Callback. I knew it.
Yeah.
No, that's good, man. I'm happy for you.
Yeah. No, it's nothing. Like I was also I was thinking about this. Like it means nothing in the sense that like it's not gonna necessarily lead to like a spike in attendance or anything. And no, Joe Rogan doesn't know Be My Name. But what Joe Rogan does know is like he talks a lot. He's been talking more and more about the golden days of LA and the golden days of comedy here in the past tense,
Oh,
which
absolutely.
it's so depressing, but I also very respectfully I disagree. I think LA's golden days are ahead, and he at the very least knows that there are a couple of comics really hustling to produce something to make this worthwhile.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. You're absolutely right. But at the same time, you know, he's not here no more. And what
Yeah.
it was, you know, he misses that, obviously,
Oh
you
yeah.
know, and that was like so fun. And that was a lifestyle for a lot of people. And the comedy store is, and it was at that time, so important for stand-up comedy and him in general. Like it's been said so many times, you know. So it's it's just interesting because we all don't know how it's going to be, but like Hollywood has always survived through, you know,
Yeah.
crisis, like the depression. Like people always will seek out entertainment,
Oh yeah.
and especially with podcasting and stand-up comedy, like you have to imagine like everybody had a, you know, had a period of time they had to sit at home and consume. You know, like what was you consuming? Food, videos, movie, TVs, books, what have you, you know? And a lot of people definitely consume stand-up comedy podcasts and stuff. So when it comes back, I have a feeling like it's gonna be, like you said, I think it might be bigger than it was.
Oh yeah. And I
Because we all
also
hope.
yeah. I think what Joe Rogan is doing in Austin right now, I think he's about to open potentially the biggest comedy club in the world.
Yeah. So has he said on record, like have you heard on record that that's what he's doing?
Yes, I've on the Jamar episode, he said once that club opens, he's sending out the bat signal.
Wow.
Yeah,
Is it Cap City? Did he buy Cap City?
I don't know.
That makes sense because you heard about that, right?
Yeah, I heard Cap City closed. Yeah,
See, I don't know anything in Austin. What's going on? That's just so funny. Everybody in LA is a lot of comics. That's the conversation. Like, are you moving to Austin? You moving to Austin?
it,
See, my thing is that you don't have to move there. Like, if you really truly don't have like, you know, if you don't want to pursue show business, like trying to be an actor, trying to write for TV, like get your, you know, like get those chops going, because those can be very helpful for creating a name and selling tickets, having credits. So I think it's great that there is an exodus because, in my opinion, you know, all right, now there's two places to go to. You know, like I would love to go to Austin and spend time there and do legit comedy for, you know, big comedy fans, and then come back home to LA and still work as much as I possibly can.
oh yeah. I also I've thought about which I still might do this. I might put all my stuff in storage, go to Austin for 2 months, and then come back here and have a new place that's cheaper because just rents is like plummeted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I imagine you're a guy that would definitely want to do that, and that's what's so beautiful about being the stand-up comic is that you know, like it's comedy if it's somewhere else, you know, if it's happening somewhere else and you can prosper and make whatever living, laughs, a name, you know, you go do it.
Yeah. Yeah, Jamar Neighbors, from what I understand, he's gonna do like the nomad thing for a bit, just see parts of the country and get up wherever he can.
Yeah, that's see, it's oh, man, I I don't want to talk about it on a podcast because I have a grand idea that I've wanted to do for a long time, but you can't bring it up on podcast because then
Can't
people will be
can't
like,
bring it up.
oh,
What you
why aren't you gonna
really?
do it? Why aren't you gonna do it then?
This is a tease. I'm curious what it is, but
Oh,
dude,
I'll tell you. I have to tell now because I talked
yeah,
about it.
absolutely.
But what the dream would be is for 1 year to live in 12 different cities for 1 month and do the
Okay.
comedy scene. You know what I mean? And then document it and then do a podcast. Like I'd like to, you know, 12 cities. So I'm there for 4 weeks. And then each, you know, week I interview a comedian from that city, you know, that I know and I've met. And, you know, maybe like a local open mic, you know, legend who doesn't get the respect. I don't know,
Yeah.
just because it would be fun to, you know, as a comic you have to tour and I want to see the country for sure. Plus like, man, you can go anywhere with it, you know, it's your trade takes you around.
Yeah, there are many scenes that I'm curious about. Something like Indianapolis, which I've heard. I can't couldn't give any examples off the top of my head, but a lot of people who are on the cusp of recording their first album, they'll move to Indianapolis where they're able to drive, like they're within driving distance of every major market east of the Mississippi.
Yeah, that would be amazing. I know. I eventually want to go to Florida. I want to go to Nashville. There's so many good cities.
Yeah, I know, like Cleveland. You have
Chicago.
oh, Chicago's great. I've done comedy, a little comedy there.
I have the dream of, see, my during quarantine I got really into watching a vlogger named Justin Scard, and he mostly did Disneyland vlogs. Like that was what I was really into. But he would get out and go see all sorts of places. So as a comic, when I travel, I'm like, oh my god, I want to go look at these tourist spots now. You know what I mean? But he did a Route 66 one, and to me, another dream tour gig would be from here to Chicago, all along Route 66, there and back, doing gigs.
That conversation we've had.
Yeah, I told you about this, right?
Yeah.
See,
Yeah.
I repeat myself
No,
so much.
That's yeah.
Now that they're on your podcast, I have to do them. They're on the record.
No, but going out, like, that's not a bad thing. Like, these are all very tiny markets that have no live entertainment, period, and they would probably just be, at the very minimum, a little bit fascinated that you're there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Probably get rowdy.
I mean, yeah, it could be done, but the whole thing is that before, obviously, the pandemic, because I'm assuming that, you could get a lot of gigs, almost doing comedy weekly in these different cities. But now it's like, don't even know yet.
Yeah. Like,
because during the pandemic, go ahead.
No, would any of these bars be open to it right
exactly.
now?
Yeah, and that's why it's like during the pandemic, it's, when you're reevaluating, because I had to move home because I had a roommate leave from my place. Yeah. So I had to move home for a period. And it's like, this is what I talked about. Like, I could put all my crap in storage or leave it at my parents' house in their garage, and then I would try to travel around the country and do this thing. But it's like, I don't know if it'd be worth it because, I would have to be doing, unwelcomed comedy because the world's not back to normal yet.
Yeah, that's has anybody tried shaming you for doing comedy at all?
Yeah, I got, my family is not really into it, but
yeah,
that's about it. So
yeah,
I mean, if they are, then nobody's like telling it to me, just my family. But I was waiting until the holidays were over because I moved home. Then I got a brand new place in November, and then I was like, I'm gonna wait for the holidays to be over. And then when they were, like, come January, the cases were out of control out here. God. And so I was like, all right, well, I'm not, got a brand new place. Luckily, I got a brand new place that I can sit inside all day and admire compared to going insane. But now that, they eased up on openings.
Yeah, my parents were initially worried about me when I was talking about the idea of going to Austin because they're like, oh, it's Texas. The cases are out of control. And then lo and behold, L.A., we got hit. And But I think they also are like well aware that I'm taking all the precautions in the world between hand sanitizer. I have a hook to open doors in public.
Nice.
Yeah, that I don't know anybody who does that.
It's not a bad idea.
I mainly do it because it's fun.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
Yeah. But
especially if you open doors for people. You'll have to do that more often. You'll have to open doors for people with the hook.
It's a good conversation starter.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, at a bar, like after this, who knows?
You're like an icebreaker back in the day, a literal one.
Yeah. Like it's like
I wasn't sure if I was allowed to be funny on here.
Oh, you absolutely are allowed to be funny, but if it doesn't land, it's very, very painful.
Like that sounds like my usual podcast. Zoom.
Like something I learned very early on. Like this is still like I've never had a podcast that I've done this consistently. And I remember I made a joke. It was like the second episode I did talking to someone. I did a couple solo ones, but I was talking to Hendren Seavey and I shoehorned a joke into the conversation. It did not land, and it was just like, ugh.
Did he call you out?
He said something about, are you running a bit by me?
You go, yeah, this is my content, okay? I would love for, my true fans, my true future fans to listen to all of them and be like, oh, man, listen, like, when they post in my subreddit, the Ian Rousso podcast, they post in your subreddit, they go, this timestamp, this is one of the first podcasts where he did this joke and it was terrible, but look how much it's come.
Yeah, I've never thought about using this as really like a mechanism to necessarily workshop material without even really thinking about it. Like I know Bill Burr is like that's essentially the magic behind Monday morning podcasts. Well,
he has no one to talk to, so technically it doesn't. That that's not true, but he's talking like he's speaking to an audience, like these are my thoughts. I got to get them out, but I'm talking to, it's like a good, you know, like he's talking to his dog, that's what I think
Yeah.
is great. But a lot of comedians, they always talk about how, oh, it's not my intention when I do a podcast to come up with material, but sometimes, you are being yourself and you're on the mic and you are having the conversation with usually other funny people that and you can be yourself. So it comes out, it happens. It's funny. I know a
Yeah.
lot of people who they're like, oh, I'm going to write that one down,
Yeah, we're being
because that might,
present.
that might be something. Yeah. Being present. That's the whole
Yeah,
point.
we're engaging with one another, and I feel stand-up comedy in itself, this is like talking to an audience, like a one-person audience. And
Yeah.
like
Well, plus it's radio.
yeah, that I keep forgetting it. It's like, oh yeah, this is technically radio. This is technically a talk show.
Yeah.
Like
It's
like
all of it.
like I wonder, like, if after things open and I'm able to, like, if I have a 3-bedroom house with a garage, like, if like, what if I, like, just really with the format of this and just, like, made, like, shot a talk show in my garage.
Yeah, and you have to think about those things because that's basically what we were all supposed to do during quarantine. Build a studio, build your desk. Because
Yeah.
nowadays it comes down to it's like, oh, I want to be a late night talk show host. You become a YouTube talk show host. That's basically what it is.
Yeah, that was another thing that Hendren said that I got out of my talk with him, is that comedy. All right, so the ladder that we climb up, we climb broke. Like, there's no everybody's credits are over a year old at this point.
Yep.
But if you're good with a grappling hook, you could climb that fucking wall yourself.
It's true.
Yeah.
But how do you do that? You have to learn because nowadays create an audience.
Oh yeah, this is and who knows, something might like every episode I do, there's something is said that could hit someone at just the right moments, that who knows, they might share it, they might subscribe.
Yeah. Or they
Yeah.
might judge your background, like your kitchen there.
Yeah. Yeah, which you could see in the corner over there. Those are some unwashed pots and pans.
Yeah, it's really funny. I like how
Yeah.
there's you did you see that actor who got he was doing an audition and the director wasn't on mute and he talked about how poor he looked, like his apartment was so like this I'm tired of these poor actors in their apartments. And the guy's like, "Hey man, I can hear you. I'm just trying to get by." And it's so funny that it's like it's come to like, oh, everyone's gonna judge your background, like, oh, what's going on in your background. And you're like,
Oh, yeah.
hey, focus right here, eyes up here,
Yeah.
or eyes in the middle here. Please focus me and on
Yeah.
my talking head.
And right here, I have like half a storyboarded script.
Oh, there you go. Did
Yeah.
you put there? Is that where that lives, or did you put that in the background on purpose?
That is an actual script. It wasn't something I thought, hey, you know what? This set needs half a script storyboarded behind
Yeah,
me.
that's funny. You keep it in your kitchen, or is that not in your
That,
kitchen?
it's just, I put a corkboard there.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. But it's like, yeah, and even a couple days ago, I was in a, I do, most weeks I participate in like a weekly writers group hosted by Ken Garr.
Oh, right on. Oh, that's
Yeah.
right. He's still doing that.
Yep, still doing it. And the last time he did it, I got a phone call. I hit stop video. I tried hitting mute, didn't do it successfully, and I was like, "Hello? Hey man, I'm in the middle of this thing right now." I saw the host muted you, and I was like, "Oh god damn. I feel so bad," while somebody's like pitching their joke.
That's hilarious. How many people do it?
It's like 6 a week.
Right on.
Yeah. I find it sort of useful. I'm very careful about giving feedback to people because I feel like the wrong feedback could actually hurt their development more than help.
Especially if they're early, but at the same time, that's why I think it's for me, when I was starting stand up on the scene, nobody told me anything. And it's kind
Yeah.
of like, ah, man, wish like people were more like, hey, you should not do that, or man, that's funny, or this. People always tell you what's funny, but they usually don't tell you what's not funny. It's
Yeah,
like, no, just be real. We all got to be as honest as we can.
I'm a firm believer is that I'm a firm believer of the Ari Shafir method in terms of first 5 years focus all your energy, all your resources on being as comfortable on stage as possible.
Yeah, that's so important because I still like get back into it now. I'm going through that all over again where I'm like, I have to just enjoy and not be afraid. No one's gonna punch me.
Yeah.
I gotta punch them with lines.
Boo. Ha.
I'm never gonna do it, but
Yeah.
thank you.
How about not on a podcast?
Yeah,
How
it's because I used to always say it's funnier into a microphone, but
yeah.
that doesn't pertain for podcasts.
How many years were you in when you did your first boo-ha?
About I think I have the first one documented 2010. So I was
Wow.
about 2 years in.
Okay, and was it just something that was by accident or?
No, I was kind of like peer pressured to do it because I would do it off stage. Like I do it to my friends. I would just be obnoxious and make the boo-ha noise. And
Okay,
then people
right
are like,
on.
dude, and then I was like, I just make that noise. And then I would tell a bad joke and then I'd use that as the punch. And then, of course, do that on stage, do that on stage. I was like, hell no, I'm not doing that on stage.
Do you find God, you started in 2008.
Correct.
Do you find yeah, I'm pretty decent at math. Do you subtraction. But do you find like any differences in comedy as an art form? Like 2008, did smartphones even exist back then?
Yes, they did, but it's definitely different, and it has a lot to do with more of you know the interest in stand-up comedy because podcasting was still trying to get its feet wet, and it was so underground and in your own basement type of vibe that a lot of people weren't getting on onto it. But what I mean, like, is different is that like the Comedy Store, there was 40 people signing up for potluck when I first
Yeah.
started, and like, and it was dead. And then if you ever got put on potluck, you and maybe 3 people would see you. Like the one time I only got up was because I was the one who brought 2 friends, and then my 2 friends were the only ones who watched me. And then of course we left immediately right after that.
That's such a different time. Like, such a different time for the store than what it was like leading up to the pandemic.
Absolutely. So
And
there's like a lot of that difference. And there was obviously to the like bars, there were more bars and coffee shop open mics compared to these pay for play ones, where people open up their own establishment and decide to run an hourly open mic.
yeah,
And I miss that because that was, you got your chops of yelling at drunk people.
yeah. Because I also I find it depressing in a lot of ways. I think like the slotted system has its pros and its cons, but ideally, I don't think a struggling comedian should have to pay $5 to talk into a microphone for 5 minutes.
Yeah, you just think about people who are first starting out.
Yeah,
They didn't go to bars to like, try to be like, oh man, this is, like a tough environment compared to this is a stagnant environment. I mean, I don't like to call the pay for plays a stagnant environment, but it's really rare for life to flourish compared to doing it at a bar. Does that make sense?
I
Because
could
at a
see
bar
something. Yeah,
is a more like, hey, this is like a normal atmosphere. Everybody's just kind of hanging out. It's like, oh, I'm like enjoying my beer, but if you're funny, I'll kind of pay attention to you. Compared to like comics, like, oh, I'm forced to pay attention to you, and if you're not funny, like, I won't laugh. So it's harder, and you might think that's better, but at the same time, I don't
yeah,
know. Who do you think is like one of the comics that are definitely been raised on the pay for play? Because you started out in LA before these were existing,
yeah.
correct?
As far as like the good ones, there's a couple of like comics who've almost exclusively worked out their ideas at like Fourth Wall, who've done like or just monsters. And I think Eric Rocha is definitely one of them.
But I feel like did he start doing it with those, or I feel like he started somewhere else.
I
might be wrong.
I'm trying because I never saw him before Fourth Wall.
Because if that's the case, then yeah, I agree. Like, oh yeah, he's a beast.
Yeah, like I'm trying to think of people who specifically started at Fourth Wall or Bert's Back Room. I've been to that. I was at that like maybe like 4 times.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then
yeah, it's so funny because it's I wish it would go back to the bars, and I hope it does, because like the bar would just be like, you have to buy one item to perform, and then that was tough for a lot of comics because they're like, dude, I can't afford it. Like I'm so broke. Like I'm doing open mic comedy, I can't afford that. And I hate to say it, but there's a rugged crew that comes along with that. And so like the pay for plays, it was kind of nice that it edged out people who weren't taking it as serious, because you knew like, hey, if you're going to take it serious, you got to like buy one item, support the establishment, like be a supportive person towards comedy. And so that's where I'm like, it's nice that people who can pay $5 to do this, we don't get homeless people. I hate to say that and put them down, but they just, unfortunately, most of them, they have mental problems, and they've abused some sort of their mental capability of like, hey, this is a show, like please don't be disruptive and stuff like that. But it's not easy.
That,
it's tough. It's really hard for those individuals, and I don't want to put them down and stuff like that. But then again,
they're
that's what's fun about doing if you open mic yelling at bums, that's where you got your chops. I kind of like that upbringing compared to you go to Fourth Wall and be like, oh, I can schedule my open mic live. I mean, there's so many benefits. I can go all day about open mic comedy. I know when you posted the story, you're like, hey, legend. I kept trying to put like open mic legend. I tried to like scratch in there open mic legend. Okay, the only but the only reason why you say that is because to me, there was a point where I'm like, you know what? The only way I'm ever gonna like level up is I got to make all these motherfuckers around me laugh. These are the people who are gonna push me up to the next level.
You're a well-liked person. I think Hinchcliffe and Red Band like you a lot.
Yeah, no, I'm a very nice person. I obviously try to like everybody, But if you make me angry, it sucks, because I really don't, I try not to get like that.
Yeah.
But I appreciate it. Thank you. Yes, nice. It's nice to be.
I do remember though the first like 6 months to a year of Fourth Wall. Like I was at one of the first Fourth Wall, like back when Fourth Wall wasn't even slotted. It was just a list.
Yeah, it was the 8 o'clock mic that people would get there almost 2 hours early to sign up early and then leave.
Yeah, I was up last at one of those mics, and like everybody was in the parking lot just like drinking and.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, but the thing that I remember was the stretch when Joe first made it into an hourly slotted, because of like the convenience factor. Like a lot of people who were working out late night sets would go to Fourth Wall, because it was just like an efficient use of their time. And then you had my favorite. I don't know if you were there for any of these nights, but Joe, from the actor, I forget his name, but he played Joe on Blue's Clues. He went to Fourth Wall a couple times.
You mean Steve?
No, the guy who replaced Steve.
Oh.
Donovan Patton, I believe is his name, is the actor.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
Well, man, I used to always say like, we can blame Joe Menente for so many for lazy comedians because they only use the Fourth Wall system. But at the same time, Joe Menente is a legend in open mic comedy.
Oh, yeah,
because he created a format where it is absolutely because he wanted people to stick around and watch the open mic. That's what it really came down to, because we would all like wait 2 hours, sign up for that mic, and then split. So when the 10th guy would go up, it'd be like him and maybe 2 people and the host, and it's like kind of he's like, I paid $5 to come and do this crappy stuff. So he learned how to do that system, and it's like, man, that is the best system ever to like, get convenient open micing going. But he's a legend, because a lot of people are definitely they are working out under that system. Plus, how many people have taken that and turned that into their own business?
Do you remember when boo-haas tried doing that?
Yeah, they tried multiple times.
Yeah.
And that club is old. So they're when it comes, when at the time they were so old school. I love going there though.
Yeah.
Because if he's gonna pay $5, I chose to go there at 6 o'clock. It was by my place, and I like showroom. You know what I mean? Like, I like to get up on the club stage and perform as much as I possibly can, so I get comfortable. So when the timing does come to get a good gig there, you are like, yeah, I've been up here. I'm comfortable. I'm ready for this. Throwing right down the plate.
The Ha-Ha, with all of its faults, it's a beautiful club.
Yeah, exactly. I know there's so many faults in so many of these things.
Yeah. I like, as far as like the lesser of two evils between them and Flappers, like I would go with Ha-Ha.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, exactly. It's tough because Flappers. I hate to get on podcasts and just critique so many different clubs, but their Yoo-Hoo open mic Friday and Saturday nights was one of the best ones in town, in my opinion, because it was a tiny little showroom, and it always got packed. Yeah, it was mostly comics, but then like a lot of new comics went there to start, and they always brought a bunch of friends, so there was always a bunch of real people. But my only disappointing thing is that they didn't have anybody from the club watching it. Like, yeah, there were some people who kind of worked there, like the waitress and stuff like that. But in my opinion, I think I don't know if it's profitable in their eyes, and they probably tell me it wasn't. But they had so many comics working that room late night on the weekend, basically.
Yeah.
And they would book that room throughout the week. And it's like, you should have a tiny little pool of comics who can work this room. So when you have so many bringers, you have so many new comics on these tiny little rooms with a few people in there, you get somebody who's like, I do this room. I know this room. I know how to get the ball rolling. You put them on a lineup, 1 or 2 of those on a lineup, every show in the Yoo-Hoo room is going to be good.
Oh yeah.
But they had to do whatever's financial.
If Flappers had like a legitimate development process, kind of like
exactly.
Yeah. Because even I was talking about this with Salter Hero yesterday. Like the improv, like Rita was not always going to lab work. She was not always in back. That was only a very recent thing. And people weren't getting booked off of those mics. And once she started coming out giving notes, that changed everything. Like they're betting on developing new comics, as they should, because those 100%. New comics one day are going to be huge, and they are going to be the ones giving back. And well,
because the Comedy Store success was going so off, and they're like, it's time. Every single club has to, like, if we're a club in Los Angeles greater area, you got to develop. Don't be stupid.
Yeah.
But it's all good. They all got to do their own thing, their own way. I hear the improv is in trouble though, right?
The improv, that would be the first. I heard the Laugh Factory is in trouble.
Oh wow, that's the first I heard.
Yeah.
But
I
can't wait.
Yeah, it's gonna be. It's unnerving, but yeah, I'm not. Yeah, I think all these clubs have some dark days ahead, even after things reopen.
Yeah, I'm excited though, because I have a feeling it's gonna be good.
Yeah, so like I feel it's gonna take like 6 months to maybe 2 years to get where we sort of were. Like, in terms of, like, club attendance. But we'll see.
We shall see.
Yeah.
I'm still going to do it, though. I'm back on the horse. I'm going out tonight, tomorrow, probably the next day, and then the next day, and then the next day. And we did it.
Yeah, I wasn't able to get out yesterday because I had 2 podcast episodes and a haircut, and I regret
Oh,
nothing.
busy, busy, busy man.
And I'm nervous. I'm likely going to be starting a job next week where I'm going around to COVID test sites doing data entry.
Mm-hmm.
And like if I'm working a 9 to 5, like I got to make time because the thing that I like about this podcast is this is the first creative project that I've had where I've had definitive deadlines. Like I gotta make sure this edit is done. I gotta make sure the thumbnails are ready, promotional
Absolutely.
material.
100%. How often do you release it?
Once every three Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 3 Eastern, noon Pacific on YouTube.
You do 3 a week?
Yeah.
Nice.
And not to mention, I don't know if you knew this going into this, but I bleep out the swear words.
Oh, you do? Sorry.
Yeah, no, I don't think you swore once in this. I've been paying attention.
I said the F word.
Oh, you did? Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude,
I try to follow the rules if you want no cursing, you know.
did you ever talk to Angelus Bailey for James Demon's documentary, Pandemic?
No.
Okay, he's recording a documentary about like the LA comedy scene during the pandemic, like just people trying to keep their chops going, get whatever stage time they can. A lot of newcomers, a lot of people who are essentially out of work. And I had Angelus Bailey on, and when I told him I bleep out the swear words, he was just like, um,
It's a good clip. Did you clip that?
oh yeah, that was a fun little challenge.
How many subscribers do you have on your YouTube channel for this?
I think I'm up to 19.
Nice.
Which considering this is only I've only been doing like the interviews for about 3 weeks. That's not terrible.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'm
You
glad to
gotta
get on the ground floor.
Yeah. Yeah, one day, who knows? Like one day if this gains some sort of like becomes like a respected platform. I have my list of people and bands I'd like to talk to.
Yeah, absolutely. That's
Yeah.
what it's. You just got to believe. You got to do 300 of these, and then they'll probably listen.
Yeah. I have
Uh,
a list of people. I want to make sure everything's airtight as far as like the technical stuff, being able to carry a conversation with a stranger, which I think that's like a skill in itself. And from
Big
there,
time.
yeah, Mark Hoppus from Blink-182, that would be a fun talk. Who else do I have on my list? Frank Turner, who I know he does a lot of podcasts.
Yeah,
Joe
I don't
Q-
know who I would only talk to comedians to talk about comedy. That's the only thing I like.
yeah,
That's to me, that's why it's one of the reasons why I don't do a podcast yet, because I'm like,
yeah,
eh. I keep hearing my favorite professional comedians today, like talk about like, stop talking shop about comedy, stop talking about the process, blah 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 blah. And so
this
I'm
is
like, all
what I
right,
will
well,
say. I like as far as in a perfect situation, I would not be talking about comedy on these podcasts because at the end of the day, who in the Midwest gives a flying about Bert's back room?
yeah,
Yeah,
it's true. Same time though, man, so many people want to do comedy, and the podcast era has even inspired even more of that. Like, when every New Year's Eve, there's always or New Year's, there's always resolution comics who are coming out here to do stand-up comedy, and we all like, oh god, more names in the bucket. But now with podcasting, especially
yeah.
like a
Even
podcast like
more
Kill
names in the
Tony,
bucket. Yeah,
yeah, Kill Tony is legendary because it's gets people into stand-up comedy, because it's the least amount of stand-up comedy you see on the show. It's only 1 minute.
yes,
But people who, I've never been a fan of comedy. Oh, I watched the show's hilarious. Now it's getting me into stand-up comedy. But people who really want to try stand-up comedy watch Kill Tony, because you think about like, okay, I want to try stand-up comedy, but what's like the babyest step I can take? It's not a baby step, but 1 minute of stand-up comedy on Kill Tony, and they watch it enough and they're like, that sounds so much fun. I think I finally have the courage to go up there and do, my 1 minute stand-up comedy. Like when they go on the road, they get, like when I've done the 2 shows in San Francisco with them, it's always like, it's my first time. It's my first time. Like they always get a handful of those type of guys. And to me, I think that's historical of, getting people into stand-up comedy. But you don't
I,
want to hear comedians talk about that because they're like, oh God, more people.
I'm curious how many people who got their like start on Kill Tony will go on to do like A-list or what is that going to mean in the future?
Well,
But
just
like
success.
just work. I don't
Yeah,
know. Yeah, that
success.
what is success? What are your goals? What does success mean to you?
Basically headlining weekends for sure.
Yeah.
And then eventually working in television and film successfully where I could, make my own my own schedule. But
Oh yeah.
my goal since I was 9 years old though is to make Jim Carrey laugh. That's always been a goal.
Okay, I'll
But
make sure to tag him and see what. No,
that's
but yeah, because it's okay, so yeah, so you are looking for some sort of is fame a part of the equation? Is there like a certain threshold you want to reach?
well, to be really honest, the truth is I want to make history. And basically I want to be on the stand-up comedy, funny people, comedian actor. Like I want to be on the timeline of history of like this guy was so funny, he made it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh
Like
yes.
I want to go down historically as like one of the greats for sure. And so it's so funny to talk about it a lot, because I don't not I don't talk about it a lot, so it's funny to talk about it now. You got to
Yeah.
remind yourself what you want to do and what it takes to become one of the greats. Just want to be on the history timeline and
Constantly
work.
hustling.
Yeah, definitely work in TV and film. Like my brother is an aspiring screenwriter and stuff like that. And so
I had no idea you had a brother.
yeah, I got 3 older brothers and 2 older sisters. 3 older brothers and 3 older sisters.
Are they all like trying to do something entertainment industry adjacent?
Just one, just
Just
my closest brother to me.
okay. Do you and your brother ever collaborate in terms of like just like shooting short scenes?
We done a bunch of stuff, but it's mostly him coming up with ideas and writing. Because the last one we tried to pitch on, he had an idea and it was kind of like meh.
Yeah.
So it's actually I'm lucky for him because what he does is he writes screenplays and makes sure he always has a role for me. So, but if
Yeah.
I ever have ideas for a sketch, I give it to him and he'll write a screenplay like that, 2 seconds. Why I haven't filmed those, that's another different story. So I'm not a very
Gotcha.
good producer. That's like a fault of mine when it comes to creating things. Like I can't. I'm a good I'm a good tool to have, but to me to like get the ball rolling, I've always been a leader my whole life, but just when it comes to this, it's all very challenging. Creating things because being an athlete growing up, that's what I was, and I knew how to do that. That's why I'm like a performer still to this day because I always knew how to perform. But being creative has always been the biggest challenge in my life. Like I never really was. I just
Gotcha.
quoted Jim Carrey movies as a kid in locker or hockey locker rooms. And I thought
Just
that
re-
was funny.
just remember, this is a storyteller's town,
I
LA.
know exactly. That's
Yeah.
the whole point is that you have to tell stories.
And
Like that's
even actors in a lot of ways, like we are essentially just visual storytellers.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But coming up with stories, that's where I have to, it's writing. Writing is like the hardest thing I've ever like decided to try to do. And I still like, man, it's so hard
Yeah.
for me. So
Zach Braff, who said, who described being a writer as having homework for the rest of your life.
yeah, it's exactly that.
Yeah.
And like because like what I do for my own stand up personally, like I feel like I don't write enough. But then when I show people the process, they're always like, "You fucking how like you got it all organized and data and stuff like that."
Do you ever? Do you ever? Because your jokes they're very short. They're silly. You don't take yourself too seriously. and that works in your favor. Do you ever try to break out of that mold to do something? Do you ever try to do more storytelling type stuff?
Nope.
Nope, never.
Nope, not at all.
It's a good exercise.
It is. It's important. I have a bunch of longer jokes, obviously, that I write, but every time, like the dream is to have a really good story and then end it with a boo-ha. Like that's, like have a really good build-up story, and then obviously end it with a boo-ha. And I have to do those more, but like it's all about real life stories. Try to tell your real life stories. So I have one recently that I'm thinking about talking about just because there was funny circumstances in it.
Yeah.
And so the more I think about funny circumstances, the more I was like, oh, okay, that's actually a funny story in my life. Because then you're like, how are you a funny person? You can't think that you don't have any funny stories. But I literally was growing up quoting movies. Like there's those people who like, oh, you say things funny or you say funny things, And I've always been, I say things funny. And I can't hide from that. I know that's tough, but I quoted movies like growing up and mimicking people and stuff like that. So I've always been that good of aspect. But trying to write stories, scripts, sketches, it's all so challenging for me. But one day eventually, like my biggest thing about during quarantine was I love, like, my dojo is a coffee shop. Like that's my place to go to read, write, whatever I can do, think, I love it so much. And because I can't do it at home, I just never been able to. And I just, obviously couldn't do that for the last few months. So like I haven't written in my journal in months, and it's, that's like the biggest thing that I'm like, oh, I can't write. I need to write. So I get a journal and just. Do you write in a journal?
One of my New Year's resolutions was to write 365 journal entries, like one a day, and I am now about 14 days behind.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. But the fact that I went half of January doing it was actually kind of like I felt like it could have been a potentially cool exercise. And that's like a book's worth of material right there at the end of the year. And to document like this whole year, just like hopefully a transition from some incredibly dark days, because the beginning of January was about as bad as the pandemic got. Like to see like the transformation, who knows? Because I know I mentioned like in the journal, like yeah, I'm thinking about visiting Austin just to see what it's like.
Yeah, it's so funny too, because then you're like, wow, that's already changed so much, and that was what, barely 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, we're on a path. There is optimism to be found.
Yeah, there's a lot right now, and I want to be part of it. So that's why I'm like, all right, stand-up comedy back on the menu.
But yeah, we're back.
Gonna try to avoid indoors as much as
that's yeah. Have you done any indoor comedy in all of this?
Yeah, I did the fourth wall.
Okay, I got you. Yeah, I did 1 day of fourth wall mics, like way like. God, this is actually before like anybody was doing comedy. Like they did one day, and then Joe was just like, "This is a bad idea."
Yeah, well, he's doing it back outside again, and I think the cafe is back open too as well. So,
are they doing mics at the cafe?
I don't know. I just browsed through something. Okay. I just scrolled.
Every so often I'll go there to get their pizza.
Oh, right on.
Yeah, because Joe Benente, with all of his faults, he makes really good pizza.
That's cool. Yeah, I know he's got the patio back open again. So
yeah,
the in North Hollywood he's got the tent mic. So
yeah,
that's always there.
Yeah. Very briefly, I was doing sets in people's living rooms, and once July happened, it was just like, oh.
Yeah. I don't know how quickly I'll be to that, but if somebody asks me, I'm going to have a tough time saying no. So.
Yeah. It's something, there's something punk rock about it, but at the same time, it's like, I don't want to risk my health, and I don't want to risk the health of others. And if I lived with anyone, very briefly seeing a lady during the pandemic, and like I kept thinking like, what if I got her sick? What if she got me sick? And yeah, it's something
A lot
like
of people thought about that. So,
yeah. Oh, I'm sure it's
but
had like a detrimental effect on so many relationships.
oh yeah, a lot of breakups.
Yeah. Like it's sad that I think that's arguably the worst thing about the pandemic.
I know it's kind of funny too when you think about it because you're like, oh man, you were totally that type of person who was like, oh, I loved my, my limited time I had with you. Like I liked our lives when it was like we were going to work and we barely saw each other, and when we did see each other, it was nice times. But now that it was like we had to spend so much time with each other, we learned that we can't stand each other, and that always bummed me out. You always hope for like people who, you know, like, oh, I like hear they got closer. Like, oh, I really found like my best friend and stuff like that. So
Yeah. I know a couple of those, and I know on the other end of that coin,
yeah,
it was yeah. Are you were you in a relationship at all during the pandemic?
no, not at all,
Not at all.
not at all.
Yeah.
There was one kind of like I was talking to a girl and we were kind of trying stuff out, but I had to move out to my parents' house.
Yeah.
So I like just became a freaking, I became a bummer, and I was just like, I don't want to do anything. I'm sorry that I'm not, hey, can I come
Yeah.
over and cook for you? She's really great. She was sweet, but I was like, nah, I don't want to do nothing. I'm sad. Sorry. I have to
Yeah.
move home. I'm in, you know, I'm like over an hour away, so I'm not doing nothing.
Yeah.
Now I live with my parents. So, because most of the time, because when it first happened, I just went home. I was like, oh, I'm gonna go kick in my parents' house. This is only gonna be 2 weeks. Ended up being like, I don't know how many months, and then I eventually came back to LA in June, and then it got
Did
bad again.
yeah.
So, and then I went back to my parents' house, and then my roommate's like, yeah, I'm gonna go home too. So,
Did you grow up in Rancho Cucamonga?
sure did.
Right on. And
909 Inland Empire.
here's a question I don't think I've asked anybody yet. Do you remember the Northridge Quick?
Yes, I do actually.
Do you have a Northridge story?
No, but I just remember that being a really big shake, and then like going on the news and seeing freeways broken.
Yeah,
I was like, that's
wow.
that's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And then
The
of course not knowing about it until or not thinking about it until you move out to LA. You take you drive over those freeways once in a while, and you're always like, damn, that's crazy.
Dude, I think about it like at least once a day I'll be at a stoplight underneath the overpass, and I'll think to myself, I am one strike of a fault line away from death.
Yeah. Well, my parents, like I grew up, my parents is their thing was always hang something that can like free swing on the wall,
Yeah.
you
So
know?
like
So
as an
when
indicator?
yeah, so it's like basically it's like, have something like always you that like will swing. So if you ever feel like you're on shaking, you look up, you see that swing, and then you'll kind of, you'll know. And then if you see how badly it's swinging, then you kind of be like, oh crap, we're,
Yeah.
this is how much we're shaking. Because my mom she had I remember it was a heart. It was like a string with like a little metal heart. And I remember like waking up because I slept in their bed. I remember waking up at the time and seeing it like sway and like, oh, this is a big one. But it wasn't like you grew up in California. You're not afraid of earthquakes.
I'm still getting used to them. Like this year or last year, I felt more earthquakes than I have felt in the 5 years I've been living here. Up
That's
until that
wild.
point, yeah.
There was a
Like,
bunch.
yeah, the one in Pacoima, which is not far from me, not far. So like that happened at what, like 4 in the morning, and I have an autographed Joey Cape album that was resting right on top of that vent right there, and I woke up to a bang, and
Oh,
the next thing I remember, I'm in my doorway in my underwear, and like at that point, I was like fully conscious. I was like, did we just have an earthquake? And like I lied down to calm my nerves, and then that's when I hear more rumbling, and it's like, oh, yep.
Did it break the record?
It did not, fortunately. Like
Nice.
at that point, after the aftershock, I turned on the lights. I found the record on the floor, and that was the only thing that fell over.
That's not bad then.
Yeah. Even but yeah, going back to like the swinging thing, like the free swinging object, when we had the Ridgecrest earthquake, I was in bed. I was lying in bed, listening to Joe Rogan, and I feel the ground starting to pivot, and I wasn't sure, like, are we having an earthquake? And then my lamp started gyrating a little bit. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
yeah, that's actually a useful tip.
They're a lot of fun when you're outside. I really enjoy them when I'm outside because then you're like, okay, this is weird.
It's weird and safe at that point.
Yeah, exactly. Like, okay, this is the safest place I could be. I'm not worried about my house cracking open.
Yeah.
But when you're outside, you're like, whoa, it feels like I'm surfing. Feels like quicksand.
God, that's yeah, have you felt like big earthquakes outside?
Yeah, I have.
Okay.
I think
The,
I felt like a 6 outside one time.
the idea of being anywhere near a 6.0 earthquake freaks me out. Dude,
It's so funny. It doesn't bother me, but it should more as a native of California because California's,
yeah, it's
I don't
not a
know how much
matter of if
longer.
but when, yeah.
Yeah, if but when.
Dude, like with everything going on right now, between the pandemic, between the a stretch of wildfires that just makes the air essentially poisonous. All it takes if what happened in if what happened in Ridgecrest happens here, like God forbid that epicenter is somewhere in the valley or somewhere in the LA basin, this city will become very unlivable for a while.
Yeah, it's like I always hate putting my tinfoil hat on and thinking like, man, why are people leaving California right now? Is it, I mean, I can understand it's like from all the fires and then how bad the pandemic got, but it's like, man, fires and we're worried about earthquakes. Like they hate this state so much because it's
Oh,
it's beautiful out here. That's why.
oh yeah, this is the most beautiful state in the country.
Yeah, it's every time when we drove up to Ventura yesterday, I was just like, gosh, it's so
Dude,
gorgeous.
one of my favorite views in all of Southern California is driving north on the 101 right past Thousand Oaks, and you have that dip going into like the Oxnard Ventura Valley.
Mhm.
Like I think it's like right at the beginning of Camarillo.
Yeah,
Like
it's so nice.
just nothing like it.
Yeah, I like it just past Ventura, and then you just like start, and you're like, oh wow,
Along the
there's no
ocean, yeah.
more. It's all this strip in the ocean now, so I dig that.
Yeah, like Santa Barbara's beautiful,
Hmm.
but we do have our earthquakes.
Yeah,
That
that's don't get too relaxed.
yeah, it's all that easy living. Like it just yeah, this is a weird state. Yeah, we've this is the part where this is the part where I try to like seamlessly transition
Yeah.
into this was an incredible subject, but yeah, going from
Wow.
earthquakes to that.
Yeah, exactly. You're like, how do we take this down? You're like, with
Yeah.
earthquakes. That's how we bring it down.
No, yeah, this was an incredible. Like I can't thank you enough for doing this. Is there anything you'd like to plug?
Just go follow
Where
me
can the
on.
people find you? Yeah.
I have a YouTube channel. There's a couple clips on there. If you've never seen my stand up, I have a website. Eventually, there'll be gigs on there, MikeyMcKernan.com. But please follow me on Instagram at Mikey McKernan, spelled my name as you see it right there on the Zoom. Right there. Is that it? Right there.
Yeah, right. Yeah, very good. Someone's seen the clips. Yeah. Yeah, yep. Perfect. Wow.
Follow me on IG. No, this is great, man. I appreciate your time and you getting on here and being part of your podcast world.
Dude, thank you so much, man. And who knows, maybe I'll see you tonight.
No one's gonna punch me.
Yeah.
I gotta punch them with lines.
Boo. Ha.
Rate and subscribe.